Electric cars have long been considered out of reach for many buyers, too expensive or too impractical. But that's about to change, because the vehicle right here beside me can fit 4 grown adults inside of it comfortably, has strong range, and has an unbelievable base price of just 28 grand. Hi, my name is Jake, reporting for HotCars.com, and today we're going to take a look at possibly one of the best EV bargains around, the new Chevrolet Bolt EUV. Curiously, despite being a new model, the EUV looks suspiciously similar to the Chevrolet Bolt EV, its little sibling. That means it rolls on a very similar front-end design. The Bolt got refreshed in the 2022 model year, and it even rolls on similarly styled 17-inch wheels. It's really only once you take a step back that you realize how much larger the Bolt EUV is compared to a regular Bolt model. It's some 6 inches longer overall, as well as a few tenths of an inch taller and a few tenths of an inch wider. But the extra length is the big thing you're going to notice, because that should translate into a much roomier cabin compared to the smaller model. Our tester is a fully loaded Premier trim, which means this interior is quite nice. We have this two-tone light and dark gray interior with splashes of leather across the dash and the door cards, and of course these seats, which are also heated and ventilated. The steering wheel, also heated. That's not where the goodies end in this thing. It also helps with quite a lot of tech in here. We have things like a 7-speaker Bose audio system, wireless phone charging, and this 10-inch infotainment display here that has functionality like wireless Apple CarPlay and wireless Android Auto. Oh, and don't forget this large panoramic roof. While features like a two-tone interior and a panoramic sunroof are exclusive to the Premier trim on the Bolt EUV, some general perks of this larger form factor are definitely in terms of interior volume. Now, I know for a fact after recently having hopped out of a Bolt EV that the back seat in this thing is notably larger. I'm 6'1", I have the driver's seat in my seating position, I have several inches of knee room here, and just enough headroom to fit back here comfortably. Being based on the Bolt EV, unsurprisingly, the EUV is a nice driving vehicle. Chevrolet calls the EUV because it stands for Electric Utility Vehicle, but this is definitely more of a crossover than a conventional SUV as such, especially in terms of the packaging and the size. Because while it does make great use of its available space, this interior, as I've mentioned, is quite spacious and comfortable. This definitely is a smaller riding vehicle on the road. For perspective, I would say the EUV is actually quite close to the Chevrolet Trax in terms of its size, which is the smallest crossover that Chevrolet currently sells. But because this is basically a lifted up, slightly larger car, that means it handles and rides quite nicely. This thing is definitely geared towards comfort, which is a-okay with me. All of this is fine because the Bolt's whole driving experience from top to bottom is definitely geared towards that comfort. The cabin is well insulated and feels quite stable and quiet at freeway speeds. And the power delivery of this electrified powertrain is smooth. The stats on paper are pretty commendable. The EUV is powered by a 65 kilowatt-hour battery pack stuffed in the floor here, which sends power to a single electric motor up front. Yes, this thing is front-wheel drive only. No dual motor all-wheel drive setup is available at present time. That said, this combination is solid. It returns 200 horsepower and 266 pound-feet of torque. Chevrolet claims it is 0 to 60 in 7 seconds flat, so it's certainly punchy enough for the day-to-day drive. Keen viewers will note that's the same powertrain you get in the regular Bolt EV. In that vehicle, it's good for 259 miles of range, but because the EUV is slightly larger and has about a 250-pound weight penalty, the range drops 12 miles to a claimed 247 on a full charge. The big advantage that Chevrolet has with the Bolt EV and EUV right now is definitely the price. For the 2023 model year, General Motors announced a severe price drop, which is pretty much unheard of. The EV gets dropped by $6,300. This EUV is now $5,900 less, which is how you get that amazing 28 grand base price. There are a combination of factors involved with that, including the fact that General Motors, Chevrolet's parent company, has sold over 200,000 EVs, which means they no longer qualify for the federal tax rebate, which was a $7,500 tax write-off you could get come tax time buying an EV. Instead, Chevrolet has opted to drop the price right up front, which I suspect is the better solution for more people, because not everyone's going to have $7,500 worth of tax liability come April, but everyone can enjoy the new reduced price. And for what it's worth, the edict has come down from HQ to the dealership network that they should honor the 2023 model year price for existing 2022s, so no need to wait if there's one in stock in your area. Some other EV isms you should know is that the Bolt, of course, supports DC fast charging, though this does not roll on the newer 800-volt architecture you get in the next-generation Ultium battery pack that General Motors will be putting in their vehicles going forward. That said, it's totally fine for day-to-day use because it's not often you're going to find chargers that can charge fast enough to really take advantage of that. Though Chevrolet knows that charging is a hurdle when it comes to electrified vehicles, especially with cars like the Bolt EV and the EUV, where because of the low price point, they might often be people's first experience with an electric car. So to that end, Chevrolet is offering free level 2 charger installations at your home if you buy one of these things. A level 2 charger, also known as an AC charger, will give you about 20 miles of range per hour it's plugged in. So basically, if you plug it in overnight, it'll be fully charged the next day. While we're talking about the dollars and cents of the EUV, I want to go over how much our tester costs. This is a fully loaded Premier trim, as I've mentioned earlier in the video. It has all the interior upgrades and a few standalone goodies, including GM's Super Cruise autonomous driving technology. The price for this well-equipped example is $37 grand, which is still an absolute bargain because that is thousands of dollars less than the base price of a Hyundai Ionic 5 or a Kia Niro EV or a Mustang Mach-E. That's absolutely the huge appeal here, because even if you have nits to pick about the Bolt or the Bolt EUV with the low price point, well, all is forgiven. But that brings me back to Super Cruise, because that is a huge perk of buying the Bolt EUV, is that you can get that technology added onto this vehicle. Yes, for the time being it's exclusive to the EUV, and the EV can't get it. Super Cruise costs $2,200 to be added onto your vehicle, and basically it works on the interstates around this country. GM claims there's over 100,000 miles of approved interstate in their system, and they're continually adding to it. Unlike, say, Tesla's autopilot, Super Cruise is not intended for town or city driving, and it will not activate as such. It really only is for the freeway. That said, my experiences overall have been quite positive with the system. Sure, there are a few hiccups where it doesn't quite know every single stretch of road across Los Angeles, but when the system is operating, it does work quite nicely. It is certainly very relaxing to go down the road and have this thing accelerate, steer, brake for you. You kind of just sit there or are a passenger. That said, don't plan on taking any naps behind the wheel because they have an occupancy sensor right here, keeping an eye on you, making sure you're paying attention to the road ahead. If it's not already clear, I'm massively impressed with the Bolt EV and this new EUV model. The combination of the stellar price point, making this affordable for most buyers, along with things like the solid range and the great list of equipment, especially on this top-tier EUV Premier trim, makes it a really easy recommendation for a vehicle to go check out. There are absolutely still hurdles when it comes to owning an electric vehicle. Relying on public charging like I have been is challenging. But thanks to Chevrolet offering home charger installs and with this low price, I absolutely see this experience appealing to a lot of people, because once you take away the difficulties or the uncertainties of how do I charge this thing, how do I do it, it really does make this experience about as seamless as it could possibly be. And let's be honest, 37 grand for a fully loaded anything, this amount of content is a really great value, let alone an electric vehicle.